My name's Robert. I'm 34. If you asked my family, they'd probably describe me as the reserved one, the guy who got fortunate, the one who stays quiet but always foots the bill. For years I let that description fit. I've always been understated. Head down, work hard, avoid conflict. But on my last birthday something broke inside me, and I realized how much they'd taken my quiet nature for granted. Let me give some context. I own a business, nothing glamorous, Moslu Commercial Property Management. It wasn't a dream I chased, it started out of necessity after a layoff in my 20s. I stuck with it, and now it thrives, enough that money's no longer a concern. About 5 years ago, I began supporting my family in ways they never fully acknowledged but always expected. My parents' house payments, I started covering them when my dad's health failed and their savings dried up. My older brother, Chris, I backed his loan refinance to save his home during his second divorce. My younger sister, Emily, I paid her college fees when her scholarship fell apart. I never made a fuss about it or demanded gratitude. Honestly, I didn't mind. Family's supposed to help family, right? But lately, things started feeling off. It began quietly. Calls went unanswered, plans got canceled, my birthday was forgotten or barely remembered. I chalked it up to everyone being busy. Then came the excuses. We figured you wouldn't care to join. It was a last-minute thing. You're always tied up with work, but the reality was, they stopped inviting me. Yet the requests for money never stopped. Can you cover us this month? The roof needs fixing. We're short right now. And I kept paying, like always. This year for my 34th birthday I wanted something meaningful. Not lavish, just personal. I reserved a private table for 10 at a restaurant I'd been eyeing for a while. A place that felt like it could make you feel celebrated. I sent a group text to my parents, siblings, and a few cousins. Nothing over the top, just, I'd love to have you all there, my treat. My mom replied with a quick, okay. Emily said, looks nice. Chris didn't respond. I should have seen it coming. The night of the dinner, I got ready, put on a nice jacket I rarely wear, and arrived early, a little nervous but hopeful. I asked the server to wait on drinks until everyone showed up. 5 minutes passed, then 20. By 40 minutes I checked my phone. Texts started trickling in. Something came up, sorry. Can we reschedule? Traffic's a mess. Kid's sick. And then Chris sent one that hit like a brick. Nobody cares, man. It's just you. I stared at that text for a long time. At first I thought he was joking. Chris always had a sharp tongue. But this felt different. Harsh. Deliberate. What stung most wasn't the words themselves. It was that I wasn't shocked. I sat there alone at a table set for 10 while the server avoided eye contact and a couple nearby murmured, probably wondering why some guy was dining solo with empty chairs and an unlit birthday candle. I stayed another 15 minutes, ordered a whiskey, then paid the bill, yes, for all 10 seats, and left, not furious, not emotional, just hollow, like I'd finally reached the end of a weight I didn't realize I'd been carrying. I got in my car, sat for a moment, and scrolled through the family group chat. My dad had just shared a random video. Emily was joking in the replies. No one mentioned the dinner. No one checked on me. That's when it hit me. They didn't forget. They didn't miss it by accident. They just didn't care. They assumed I'd always be there, paying, forgiving, brushing it off with a smile. So I sent a text, one sentence, no emphasis, no rage. Let's see how you manage without a paid mortgage. Then I turned off my phone. What they didn't know, what I'd kept quiet for years, was that every cent I'd given was trackable, documented. My name was on their accounts. I held power of attorney for my parents, co-ownership of Chris's refinance deal, and Emily's tuition was funneled through a trust I'd created under my company. Silent control, legal ties. I'd never used it because I never wanted to. But that night, alone in my apartment with the city glowing outside, I opened my laptop and got to work. By morning the mortgage payments were stopped. The trust was locked. The refinance terms were shifted to demand full repayment. The shared Netflix account canceled. The family's Hulu subscription gone. I didn't feel bad. I felt unburdened. For the first time, my generosity wasn't a weight. It was leverage. By 6:30 a.m., the voicemails started. My mom, Robert, there's an issue with the house payment. Can you look into it? My dad, I think the account's been hacked. Emily, my card's not working. Are you up? And Chris, no preamble. You're being childish. Fix this. I didn't respond. I let the messages stack up. And for the first time in years, a strange feeling crept in. Not guilt, not regret, but something electric. Freedom. Just when I thought they might start to grasp what they'd done, Chris sent another text. You're really going to screw over your own family because of some pathetic birthday meltdown? Get over it. I stared at it, then laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the nerve was almost admirable. There it was, plain as day. The belief that no matter how they treated me, I owed them. That my quiet nature meant I'd always cave. They thought they could bully me back into line. I didn't reply. I made breakfast instead, pancakes, sausage, coffee brewing slowly. I played music through my speakers, loud and unapologetic. The apartment felt different, not empty but calm. I hadn't realized how much of my life was spent managing their chaos, waiting for the next favor, the next subtle jab. Now nothing, just peace. By midday the email started. First from my parents' bank. My dad had tried to adjust the payment settings and called when he couldn't. He didn't know I controlled the account fully. The bank needed my approval for any changes. Then from Emily's college, her tuition payment had failed, and her account was flagged for collections if unpaid within 10 days. The trust I'd set up was their lifeline, and now it was on hold. Then the kicker, a notice from Chris's lender. As co-borrower, I had to approve any loan changes. Without my income backing it, his refinance terms fell apart. They were unraveling, and fast. That evening my mom called 8 times. Then my dad, then both, probably on speaker. I didn't pick up. I sat in the dark, sipping bourbon, listening to the city's hum as their names flashed and faded on my screen. Around 11 p.m., my mom texted one word, please. I didn't answer. Because that please wasn't about me. It wasn't remorse or understanding. It was fear. Fear of losing the Rosanna, their safety net. They weren't sorry for how they treated me. They were just scared of losing what I provided. Days passed. I went for long walks, caught a movie by myself, ignored every call. By the 4th morning my voicemail was full. I listened to a few out of curiosity. My dad, trying to sound stern, Robert, this has gone far enough. Let's sort this out. Chris, practically spitting. You think you're above us now? You can't just ditch your family, you're weak. Emily, voice breaking. I could lose my enrollment, Robert. I have no one else. Please talk to me. I finally responded, not a call, just a text in the group chat. I asked for one night together. You showed me where I stand. Now I'm showing you where I stand. That was it, no more. Silence followed. Then unexpectedly my cousin Sarah texted. She'd always been distant but kind. She wasn't tied to the financial mess. Her message, hey, I heard things are rough. I'm sorry I didn't make it to your dinner. That was wrong. Want to grab coffee? It was simple, but it hit deep. I felt seen. I texted back and we planned to meet that weekend. As for the rest, the silence grew. They stopped calling as often, though my mom sent occasional guilt trips and Chris tossed out snarky memes. I held firm. The payments stayed off. The account stayed locked. And slowly I felt the power shift. A week later I passed the restaurant where I'd sat alone. The same table was set for someone else's party now. I realized you can't make people value you, but you can stop bankrolling their disregard. Then my phone buzzed again, a voicemail from Chris, not pleading this time, a threat. His voice was tight, venomous. You think this is done? You think you can ruin us and walk away? You don't know what you've started. I listened twice, saved it, and didn't respond. If he wanted a fight, I was ready. 3 days later, after a client meeting, my phone lit up again. Texts, voicemails, and an email titled, Legal Notice Imminent. My stomach didn't churn. I opened it. It was from some sketchy lawyer Chris had hired, full of empty threats about me wrongfully controlling family assets and demands to restore payments within 48 hours or face a lawsuit. It was so flimsy it was almost funny, but it clarified something. This wasn't about family anymore. It was about control and punishment. Chris thought he could scare me into compliance like always. He was wrong. I sent the email to my lawyer David. He's steady, unflappable, and we've worked together since my business began. He read it, laughed, and said, Robert, this guy's got nothing. You're airtight. If anything, we could countersue for intimidation. I thanked him and hung up. And for the first time, I didn't feel anger or fear. I felt pity. Chris was falling apart in real time, and he wasn't alone. My parents were next. Without my payments, their finances crumbled. They hadn't planned for a life without my support. Their credit tanked, and I saw it all through the account access they'd given me years ago. They sold their TV, then some jewelry, then dipped into what was left of their retirement. They thought I'd cave eventually. I didn't. I had David draft a letter terminating my power of attorney and cutting all financial ties. I included a spreadsheet of every payment I'd made, house, utilities, even their phone bills, and wrote, this is what I gave. This is how you repaid me. We're done. I didn't email it. I left it on their porch with a copy of the dinner invite. 2 days later, my mom texted, why I didn't reply. I blocked their numbers, not out of spite, but for my own peace. Walking away isn't always about vengeance. Sometimes it's about saving yourself. I'd given so much, money, time, patience, that I hadn't noticed I was empty, until I stopped, and then I could breathe. A month passed, then 2, life got calm. I started running again, picked up books I'd meant to read, reconnected with friends I'd drifted from. I even met someone new, someone who didn't know the mess, who just enjoyed my company. It felt strange. It felt honest. One Thursday, I ran into Sarah downtown. She was with a friend and introduced me with a smile. This is Robert, the guy who finally stood his ground. We laughed, but it hit me. That's who I was now, not just the guy with the cash, not the silent one, but the guy who said enough. That meant something. Chris, last I heard, crashed with a friend and was scrambling to start over. Emily left school and got a job at a coffee shop. My parents, a cousin said they're renting a small place across town. I don't know more and I don't want to. They're not my burden anymore. This year's birthday, no big dinner, no invites. I rented a lakeside cabin with someone who cared. We cooked burgers, drank beer, and watched the stars. I didn't feel selfish. I didn't feel alone. I felt free. So yeah, that was the year I lost my family and found myself. And I'd make that choice again without blinking.